of strategic partners from both the private and public sectors industry on December 7th to the 10th. The Winter Economic Summit will bring leaders together to discuss diversifying the U.S. Virgin Islands economy to foster better international trade, commerce, capital markets, foreign direct investments, leveraging innovative technology to improve public infrastructure, building an integrated, robust tech sector, bringing thought leaders from academia and knowledge-based sector for research and development in the Americas, the Caribbean, and globally. You invite
the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce. It's Brooklyn, New York. There's a lot of intersection between the conversations we've had so far in terms of economic development here in the U.S. Virgin Islands and my hometown of Brooklyn, New York, which I'm going to go into some of the sort of intersections themselves, but we are home to the largest diaspora of people from the Caribbean in New York, and certainly much of that is concentrated in Brooklyn. But my presentation today is sort of going to start with just an overview of Brooklyn, and then we're going to transition into opportunities for collaboration and partnership. We'll also talk a little bit just organizationally how we're structured in terms of the work that we do, because I also think that there might be some learnings just in terms, particularly how we work with small businesses. So John, we were talking earlier about small business support. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing I think are innovative around small business support in Brooklyn. We like to say Brooklyn, a bridge to the world. Another interesting fact, 1 in 8 Americans can trace some of their family history back to Brooklyn. So this is a story of diversity. It's a story of immigration, and it's a story of really what is, in essence, the 4th largest city in the United States with 2.8 million people. Next slide. So a little bit hard to see, but I'll read it for you. So Brooklyn is slightly smaller than St. Croix. I was doing the math. We are 72 square miles. We have 26 square miles of waterfront. So if you know the geography, we're actually part of Long Island. We're at the eastern tip of Long Island. We are one of the 5 boroughs that comprise the city of New York, along with Queens, which is also on Long Island, Staten Island, Manhattan, and the Bronx. As I mentioned, we are a pretty populous borough, almost 2.8 million people. That would make us the 4th largest city in the United States, just behind Chicago, if we were our own city. Now, we were our own city up until 1898, and that's when we voted to become part of New York City. We're a very young borough. We have a median age of 35 years. And this is an important data point when you sort of think of the history of Brooklyn. 37% of our population that live in Brooklyn are foreign born, and almost 45% speak a language other than English at home, right? So that gets back to a lot of our immigrant sort of history. And in terms of economic growth, and this is what I was talking about in the earlier panel, the transformation of what in essence was an old industrial economy into the Brooklyn of today, which is really a hub for creativity, the creative economy, as we say, whether it's the tech sector, the biotech sector, and others. But we contribute, in terms of recent economic growth, we contribute almost half of new economic growth to New York City. Now, COVID was a very unique crisis that actually enabled a place like Brooklyn to sort of bounce back much sooner than Manhattan. So for those of you who know Manhattan, and it is still the financial hub of the world, in order for them to rebound from COVID, they needed to get a lot of office workers coming back in to big office towers. We didn't have that challenge because we're still a residential borough. And if you think about the nature of COVID and the type of challenge that was, if you were sheltering at home, working from home, where were you shopping? Close to home. So in some ways, that actually helped some of our commercial corridors, the fact that people were not traveling into Manhattan to access employment. Next slide. There are 62,000 businesses in the borough of Brooklyn. It's a big number, but 84% have less than 10 employees. So we are still very much a small business. Hospital systems, and in terms of our healthcare, mental health, and social services systems, it is by far the largest sector. But tech is our fastest growing sector. So people don't realize this, but since 2009, we have outpaced even San Francisco in terms of new tech startups. Now, it's little tech, not big tech. What do I mean by that? So the Metas and the Facebooks and others are based in Manhattan, but new tech startups have become an important part of Brooklyn's growing creative economy. And we have actually invested in infrastructure to attract that. I'm going to talk about New Lab, I'm going to talk about NYU Future Lab. And we are also home to 20 colleges and universities. So I mentioned NYU's engineering school, which used to be Polytechnic, which is now the Tandon School of Engineering. I keep looking at John because he remembers all this. He was a Brooklyn Tech kid too, so he was close by Polytechnic. But we've got several CUNY, City University colleges, the Pratt Institute of Design, Brooklyn Law School. So we've got 20 colleges and universities. In many ways, we're a college town as well. And that, from a talent perspective, helps us to also kind of regenerate our economy, right? Next slide. We contribute almost 650,000 jobs to New York City's economy. Healthcare contributes about 180,000. Social assistance, another 84,000. Our retail, leisure, and hospitality trade has grown significantly over the last 20 years. Put it in perspective, 62 million tourists came to New York City in 2019. 15 million made it to Brooklyn. Queens was a distant third with about 2 million. So tourism, hospitality has grown significantly. We've got tremendous tourism and cultural assets, which we've more recently really started to promote. Our restaurant sector has really come on its own. We are now home to Michelin star restaurants, not just Manhattan. We have a lot of ethnic specialty food restaurants serving not just the immigrant population, but New Yorkers in general. I mentioned the tech sector, 15,000 jobs just in the last 4 years alone in the tech sector. And now this is an interesting point too. 1.4% of all US graphic design jobs are based in Brooklyn. Now remember I was talking about before, you can pretty much do some work from anywhere, right? Well, graphic design is one of those types of jobs that you can pretty much do anywhere in the world. So the people who set up to do that type of work are working from a coffee shop in Williamsburg, right? Because they don't need an office, and they're a freelancer. But if you think about it, they can do that anywhere. Where they do it from is where they want to live, work, and play, right? And that's the three. I'm going to keep coming back to that theme of live, work, and play, because those three elements, when brought together, can be a powerful attraction for people in the creative economy. Next. I mentioned healthcare and biotech. So I will say life sciences, New York State, and Mark Jaffe knows this well, but of all the sectors that New York State has actually invested some incentives into attracting, it's life sciences. We don't have a lot of healthy incentive programs in New York. And we are a high cost location. But at least in the terms of life sciences and biotech, we've made a concerted effort to invest in incentive programs that will attract global companies. This company here in this picture, Regen Labs, is actually a Swiss-based company. They set up a second-tier facility, research and manufacturing facility at the Brooklyn Army Terminal, which is a former big industrial area in Brooklyn. But I say that too because in the terms of the life sciences, there is advantages to being in such a diverse jurisdiction like New York City when it comes to clinical research. So if you think about, and this is why we get a lot of international interest in the life sciences, because number one, we have the educational institutions to support that. But number two, if you're doing clinical trials and you need a diverse gene pool that's representative of the world, you could find it in one place, New York City, as opposed to having to do clinical trials all over. So, some of the incentive is really based in terms of the diversity of our population. Next slide. So we do a lot around entrepreneurship in the startup cluster, and I'm looking at Ms. What's your name again? I'm so sorry. Ms. Hayes. In terms of entrepreneurship, remember I mentioned that small business number, 84% less than 10 employees. We actually have programs that we've helped to incubate, but also that New York City runs, that are specifically targeted to helping new entrepreneurs and micro entrepreneurs get off the ground. Now, Ms. Hayes, it's not easy to start a small business. It's certainly not easy to sustain a small business, unless you happen to have deep pockets personally, over the long haul, having help, having support, having technical assistance, having access to financing, like these are things that could be critical in terms of ensuring small business success. Through COVID, we actually pioneered some new programming to support small businesses, not just that we're starting up, but we're actually restarting as they were reopening from COVID. But even on the micro lending side, for example, we pioneered a social justice lending program with the Joe and Clara Tsai Foundation. They're the owners of the Brooklyn Nets. And it was character-based lending for recovery loans versus the traditional underwriting criteria that keep particularly businesses of color out of the financing market. So collateral guarantors credit scores. So we said, look, we know if we want to create equity in this space, in this micro lending space, we have to rewrite the underwriting criteria. It's less about interest rates. Now it's about interest rates, but back then interest rates were low across the board. So it was more about the criteria that we were using in an effort to ensure that financing was getting into the hands of small businesses. Now, character-based is simply that. These were businesses that had been operating in the community for decades. They didn't qualify for federal support, though. Their payroll was not always verifiable. Their tax returns weren't necessarily filed correctly. There's a whole host of reasons, but they had been baking cocoa bread in the community for 10 years. They've been cutting hair in the community for 10 years. Now, who vouches for them? Could be a pastor, could be a community board representative, could be another business owner. But it was based upon that track record versus the criteria that most banks and CDFIs use in order to ensure lending. We would help them on the technical assistance side to address some of the deficiencies that kept them out of the federal support to begin with. But that's the type of innovation that I think we're trying to pioneer, particularly in the small business entrepreneurship space. We also launched the Brooklyn Entrepreneurship Academy, which was in essence a boot camp for particularly BIPOC women to start businesses. And we graduated 18 in our first cohort, 14 got to launch, and then we had a pitch competition, so we were able to give them some resources on the back end to get started. And these are everyday neighborhood businesses. We're not, I'll use the baseball metaphor again. Like sometimes you got to hit a lot of singles to win versus hoping for the home run all the time, right? So this is about hitting the single. Next slide. So the manufacturing, it's a story of a traditional story of a Rust Belt city that after World War II lost its heavy manufacturing base and had to reimagine what its future economy would look like. And as John will tell you, it took 40 years. It took 40 years for us to really leverage two advantages that we had in order to make our economy and attract really the creative industries. And the first thing was the brand. I mentioned this earlier, right? People knew New York City and they knew Brooklyn. Right? It wasn't like Queens or something, or Staten Island, but people knew Brooklyn. It had a bad rep when I was growing up. There was a lot of middle-class flight to the suburbs. It was dangerous, a lot of crime, right? There's a lot of urban decay, but people knew where Brooklyn was. They knew the Brooklyn Dodgers, right? They knew Coney Island, right? These were the things that they understood. And that became an exercise in rebranding, right? So, you know, once we got some momentum, and I'll tell you how we got the momentum in a moment, but once we got some momentum, we had to even change the way we were describing ourselves, right? And that's where it comes in. You know, where we were once dangerous, became edgy. The artists like edgy, right? So you get the artists to come in first, the edgy, right? And then we became hip. So now, you know, all the Gen Zs want to come to the hip part of New York. But the second thing we had is all of this former heavy industrial space that could be repurposed through adaptive reuse in order to attract not just new businesses, but also new residents. And this is important, right? And I realize that there's always some negative to change, and we can get into that. And this is where I think there might be some important sort of potential. Most of North Brooklyn, particularly Williamsburg, this area, Dumbo, down under the Manhattan Bridge underpass, was heavy industrial space that is now today a high-end residential. If we didn't have that heavy industrial space that was either vacant or underutilized, we wouldn't have had the ability to create enough capacity so that people who wanted to be here actually had a place to come. In other parts, we actually repurposed for commercial. So where our offices are, a place called Industry City in Sunset Park, I'll put this into scale, 6 million square feet of heavy industrial space, 6 million. That's 16 buildings. Repurposed for mixed-use commercial, starting with ground floor retail, makerspace, food manufacturers who also have a retail component, and then above, biotech, tech firms, design firms, you name it. Fast forward to today, that space houses over 900 businesses and close to 11,000 employees. But they're not making like heavy duty industrial supplies. It's all of these small makers, designers, some manufacturing, but it's a completely different economic model. If we didn't have the real estate, we didn't have the space to repurpose, we wouldn't have been able to do this, clearly. That's the Brooklyn Navy Yard. That's another example. Brooklyn Navy Yard is an enclosed industrial park. That's where we were making the Iowa-class battleships through World War II. And it was a center for manufacturing activity. Today, all of those buildings have been repurposed. They still do manufacturing, very different type of manufacturing. Smaller scale, more niche manufacturing. We have a competitive advantage in the food manufacturing sector because we've got a lot of high-end restaurants that need to be supplied, the bread maker, the pastry maker, and so forth. But the ethnic specialty food markets also fuel food production in New York. Tower Isle beef patties, one of the largest beef patty producers in the world, based in Brooklyn. So they're serving the world, but through manufacturing operations in Brooklyn. Next slide. Okay, I'm going to breeze through these, but go next slide. We actually have 3 corporations, and this is a little bit about structure. We have a traditional chamber, membership association, promotion, support, advocacy. That's the pillars of what we do as a chamber of commerce. By membership, we're actually the largest chamber of commerce in New York State, but that's because we have the most people and the most micro businesses. We have an economic development arm called the Brooklyn Alliance. The Brooklyn Alliance, 501c3, it enables us to do contracting with city government, city and state government, also with corporate philanthropy in order to do projects that produce jobs and opportunity. So we run the Business Solutions Center, for example, which is the one-stop center for entrepreneurs and existing businesses to access financing, marketing assistance, legal support, you name it. And then we're actually a micro lender. As I was mentioning before, we have our own CDFI, Community Development Financial Institution called Brooklyn Alliance Capital. And that enabled us to have the infrastructure to do the micro lending program, the social justice lending program, for example. So we actually have a little bit of a different structure than other chambers of commerce. Next. That's us we've been around since 1918. That picture's from 1926. I like to say the faces have changed. Well, I noticed the letters have, okay. The faces have changed, but the mission is still the same. Next slide. A little bit on financing. We launched our CDFI in 2017. We didn't have 2 nickels to lend from 2017 till COVID. COVID opened up a lot of doors for us on the financing side. I learned something. The more you lend, the more you're eligible for. So now we've got, on the micro lending side, we've got almost $1 million under loan currently, and I have another 1.2 million to lend. So next slide. The other aha moment we had during COVID. So we have these called business improvement districts, which really are mini chambers that support commercial corridors on a ground floor level. We also have merchant associations, which are a little less formal, but very similar type of structure. And we learned during COVID is that if a business existed in one of these business improvement districts or merchants or had an active merchants, they were in a better position to weather the storm than all the other commercial corridors that had no support on the ground. So the aha moment for us was, okay, how do we expand the capacity to build more of this infrastructure throughout Brooklyn? Brooklyn's a big place, right? 2.8 million people. We've got somewhere in the range of 89 commercial corridors. Only 20 some odd corridors have business improvement districts. So we set out to do neighborhood economic development, which was really taking a geographic area and building capacity on the ground. So getting the businesses on the ground to sort of buy into a structure of support, a micro support for themselves. Right? So we're working in 5 different communities, 5 different neighborhoods, looking to promote that. It means we put a lot of staff out in the field. That's the other thing that has changed in terms of our chamber. We have a third of our staff, and I have a staff of 36. A third of our staff are field staff. You can't do this job from behind a desk. You can't expect the small businesses to be able to come to you. You have to go to them, right? So that's a lot of our field staff. I'm very proud of them. We did a lot of great work during COVID. And we put on our mask. Even before vaccine, we did 39 commercial corridor tours. Put on our mask, got out in the field, just so we can tell the story of what was unfolding. Next. I'll keep this brief, but advocacy is an important component of every chamber of commerce. Brooklyn is at the height of its political influence right now. Our mayor is from Brooklyn. The Senate Majority Leader, Chuck Schumer, is from Brooklyn. The House Minority Leader, Hakeem Jeffries, is from Brooklyn. The New York State Attorney General, Tish James, is from Brooklyn. The New York City Comptroller is from Brooklyn. The New York City Public Advocate, which is second to the mayor, is from Brooklyn. So we are really at the height right now of our political influence. Partially, we've got the largest delegation. So we have the largest federal, state, and city delegations because we have the most people. But it's only recently that a lot of that has sort of come to fruition in terms of political support. So as our Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer will remind us all the time, he did amazing work delivering for New York City in terms of federal aid and federal support. And he literally, through some of that support, kept whole industries alive. So Broadway, for example, through the Shuttered Venues Operators Grant, I mean, that was driven a lot by our Senate Majority Leader, and that literally enabled Broadway to stay alive during COVID, for example. Next slide. We do a lot of signature events. Those are big ticket events. Black History Month celebration, Energy Summit, Not-for-Profit Summit. We have our gala, which is actually going to be this month, December 19th. Next. Energy Summit, we do that energy is a big driver in New York City, New York State, because we've passed legislation to promote renewable energy and decarbonization, more aggressive than probably anywhere in the United States, with the exception maybe of California. So we've got aggressive goals, legislative goals in place that is going to force a lot of change in the space. So, and it's not just about wind turbines. We're doing that. We've got a big wind turbine assembly facility that a Norwegian company, Equinor, is building in Brooklyn, shipping the wind turbines off the coast of Long Island. It's not just about EVs. In some ways, EVs is going to be slow to get adopted in New York because we don't have the charging capacity. The biggest challenge for us in the decarbonization scenario is we have a lot of old building stock that is run on fossil fuel, and all of that's going to need to be retrofit. So it's going to be a big lift for us, but we have an active energy committee. We do an energy summit every year to keep people aware of what's happening in this space. Next. We have a very robust international division. This is a big difference from the chamber 20 years ago. So I came back to the Brooklyn Chamber. I was there 2001, 2006. I came back in 2019. Brooklyn has become such an international brand. We hosted 36 foreign delegations in the last 18 months. Turn the next slide. I think I got them on the next slide. You can't see them, but it's pretty much all over the map. But we have 5 sort of advanced relationships. This is in addition to, U.S. Virgin Islands, which obviously is not a foreign, but we have 5 advanced foreign country relationships. Top of the list is Korea, Seoul in particular. We've done 4 years of successive projects with Seoul. The biggest project we do with them is funded by the Korean International Trade Association, where they actually have Korean entrepreneurs embed products in Brooklyn companies to test proof of concept on an international market. And they pay for it. We do a lot of work with Ghana in West Africa. Part of it is there's a lot of, Ghana had the right of return policy, by the way. And that opened up a lot of, brilliant, opened up a lot of doors for Americans if they could trace their ancestry to anywhere in West Africa. It wasn't even Ghana. So it could be, Nigeria, it could be anywhere in West Africa. They could access right of return. And what that got was a lot of Americans went there, to explore their ancestry. So they were tourists, but many of them also were encouraged to invest in Ghana. So like we have a sausage producer who wants to do a production facility, for example, in Ghana. He does a whole line of interesting sausages, jerk sausages, actually. So it's a very interesting kind of model. We're working with Dubai through the commodities exchange. Dubai is interesting too because we got a lot of artisanal food producers, coffee makers. So Dubai doesn't do just diamonds anymore. They do food, they do chocolate. So they want to get access to some of our coffee roasters and some of our chocolate producers and things like that. But we have a good relationship with them. England, we did a trade mission to England. We organize trade missions. We do this quite frequently. We do this in partnership with New York State. We're going to host one in January to the Philippines, for example. So this is all to say that, because Brooklyn, 20 years ago, if we made it, to Florida and did a trade show, did a fancy food show in Las Vegas, that was a big deal. Now we're doing things internationally, in part because of Brooklyn's international plan. Next. We have an international affiliate membership program. Once again, there are a lot of companies that want to use Brooklyn as an entree into doing business in the United States. So we actually set that up and provide a suite of services. We can't call them members because there's voting implications, but we are affiliate members. Next. Brooklyn Goes Global, that's kind of the generic term that we use for our import-export sort of work. Next. Let's skip past this. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the diaspora in Brooklyn. So 20% of New York City's population can trace its roots to the Caribbean. I don't know if anyone realized that. And once again, that's the Caribbean generally speaking, right? But 20% of almost 9 million people, right? So you do the math, 1.7 million people can trace their ancestry back here. Top of the line, Barbados, Grenada, Guyana, Haiti, Jamaica, Panama, Trinidad, and Tobago. I have to get the U.S. Virgin Island numbers. I don't. It's an interesting number to track down, but those are the top ones. We do a huge West Indian Day parade. You can see a picture. That's us marching in the parade. By the way, we won an award for the best banner. But that being said, I mean, it's pretty elaborate. We've got a lot of music, a lot of dancing, a lot of floats. 2 million people come to the West Indian Day Parade every year. It's a big economic driver for Brooklyn. It's in Brooklyn, by the way. Next. We have a part of Brooklyn which has been branded Little Caribbean. And, you know, you got Little Italy, you've got Chinatowns. We have in Brooklyn, Little Caribbean. And it's a geographic area that has been designated. And it's a concentration of both residents and businesses from the various people from various islands in the Caribbean. I mentioned 1.7 million people. It's a cultural district. I should have said that before. The woman who runs it, my good friend Shelley Worrell, she's really a visionary. She actually does tours of different Caribbean-owned businesses in the community. So Allen's Bakery, for example, which is they say they're home of the current rolls. Probably you can find them elsewhere, but they say they were the first in the 1970s that, you know, created the current rolls. We've got a whole bunch of other businesses that she kind of highlights along the way, but that's also to promote commerce, but it's also to promote culture as well. Next. Couple of famous businesses, Tasty Patty, Ali's Roti Shop, Caribbean Vibes, Allen's Bakery, as I mentioned, Tower Isle Beef Patties, which is one of our larger businesses in Brooklyn, Tony's Health Food Store. Top exports from the Caribbean to the United States, capital goods, mechanical appliances, consumer goods, raw materials, food-related products, and the exporters to the U.S., Bahamas, Barbados, Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad. No reason why we couldn't generate more of that economic activity right from here, right, which is even closer to home in many ways. Next one. So just to recap, Brooklyn, gateway to the United States, to the world, fourth largest city, one of the most diverse places on earth, height of our sort of political sort of influence at this point. And then Brooklyn is a brand. I use this as an example. I've gone to Korea twice in the last 3 years, held a Brooklyn conference in Korea, but they have in Seoul a whole district, Sangsu, which they have branded the Brooklyn of Seoul. And they actually promote that district as if this is what you're going to experience if you come to Brooklyn. A lot of it had to do with the fact that it was an old industrial space that has been converted, and it's kind of now the hipster sort of part of Seoul. But it's just interesting how they borrowed that. You'll be walking down the street in Seoul and you'll see Best Brooklyn Burger served here in the restaurant. They have an office building called Brooklyn Heights. I thought it was a hotel. I had to ask the taxi driver. I said, "What is that?" He said, "No, it's an office building." So it's just interesting how we've managed to sort of export the brand and to bring it full circle. The Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce in May of this year launched the Brooklyn Made store. So we actually launched a retail store of all Brooklyn inspired products. Packaged food goods, apparel, jewelry, home goods like candles and dish towels. We have an art gallery as part of it. All Brooklyn-based independent designers, makers, small business owners. So they can, it enables them to promote their products, get their products on shelf. And for the chamber, it's a way for us to kind of expand that equity equation. And we have an online presence too, brooklynmadestore.com. And now we're going to launch a second store. So, and we may export the store overseas too. So that's down the road. But it's about leveraging a brand, right? So I'll close with what I had mentioned in the earlier session. Some of you might not have been here. The economy has shifted where almost 50% of all the jobs in the world now can be done remotely to some degree. So then it becomes less about traditional economic development, right, which is infrastructure, incentives, and real estate, and more about creating a place where people want to be. Live, work, play, right? I use those terms a lot, live, work, play. Brooklyn has become a live, work, play sort of environment, right? So you can, if you're a graphic designer and you're 25 years old and you just got out of college, right, you're going to work out of a coffee shop in Williamsburg. And if you think about sort of how the economy and the world has shifted, right, people will go to places where they want to be, they want to raise a family. Maybe they go because of the weather. Maybe they go because of the culture. Maybe they go because of the cost of living. Maybe they go because of you know, just their ability to access recreational. So when you think about some of the amenities that you could promote here, what's less of an impediment is the fact that the job may not be based here. And if you could bring the creative talent here, then other things happen organically. Number one, their disposable income is being spent where? Here. Number two, their future investment, maybe in a small business, could be here. Number three, they're raising a family where? Here. And accessing educational opportunity here, right? So it's a very different model of economic development that really borrows a lot from Richard Florida, which says, create the conditions to attract the creative class. And that will have benefits, long-term benefits for the overall economy. And that's about placemaking. And we talked a lot, especially with our friends from EPA, about placemaking, right? And placemaking has to be intentional. Some of it is organic. I'm not saying that we sat out 25 years ago somewhere in downtown Brooklyn and said, this is how we're going to remake and rebrand the place. Some of it was by default, just started to happen. But some of it is very deliberate. When I mentioned the, you know, dangerous, edgy, hip, that was deliberate, you know. And for a place, when I was with Mark and I were just sitting out on the patio out here before early session, and I turned to Mark, I said, who wouldn't want to work from here? As we looked over at the beach and we saw the palm trees swaying, right? Like, but if you think about live, work, play environments, right, there's a lot of advantages. You need to create amenities that could sustain it. But that's where you could be a little speculative. You know, housing, for example, something the governor and I spoke about almost by accident when we hosted your governor in Brooklyn 9 months ago. We talked about, particularly around the tech sector and tech workers. You know, it's one thing to build Wi-Fi infrastructure, needed, but it's another thing to then say, okay, you, Mr. Economic Development, you, Anthony, your goal is to attract 4,000 new people to come live here in the next 5 years. Well, we've got great weather, we've got good people, we've got a good low cost of living, we've got friendly community. So we're almost sold, but we have no place for people to live, or the type of housing that they need, right? So that's the thing that happened organically in Brooklyn when we started to repurpose, in a speculative way, a lot of that old industrial space. But if you build it, they will come. And now the one thing you can't say is the impediment is we don't have the jobs here. They'll bring the jobs with them. That's the difference. They can bring the job with them in many cases. So just a little bit of a different scenario, right? It's compatible. It doesn't compete. And it works for certain sectors, tech being probably the most significant, design being another one. But you could pursue both tracks. You could have a major infrastructure project that's going to leverage your strategic and geographic location here in the Caribbean. And you could have programs and policies to attract people who want to come live, work, and play here and bring the job with you and start a small business. With that, Anthony, did I do okay? I went too long? Okay. Good. Any questions or? Sure. Yes. Hi.
I am so impressed and inspired by this presentation, not only because of diversity in strength, but also the amount of social impact that you potentially have. And so I don't really want to know how you brought hearts, minds, and actions together to work in one direction. And how you dealt with resistance that may have come, especially when you mentioned the energy factor.
Yeah. So it wasn't any one person, and it's been over a 25-year period that this has evolved. So the players have changed over time, number one. Number two, some of it was organic and happening naturally. Some of it became a little bit more deliberate. The city made New York City has always been known for the financial services sector. And for many, many decades, almost 70% of our economy was driven by the financial services sector. That was risky, especially after 9/11 and the crashes of 2007, 2008. So we had some more deliberate strategies to diversify our local economy, both geographically and by industry sector. So Brooklyn benefited from some of the geographic diversification strategies that the city sought to employ, right? And some of that was infrastructure driven. When we built NYU Future Lab or New Lab, which is a tech incubator at the Brooklyn Navy Yard, that was a very deliberate, strategy to attract and incubate tech here in Brooklyn. But now let's get to some of the negative. I presented the most positive and optimistic and rosy story. There's been a lot of change, most of it good. There's always some bad. Things are more expensive than ever before in Brooklyn, particularly housing. So traditionally, you'll hear about gentrification as being probably one of the most negative factors of a lot of change. And it is much harder to live in a place like Brooklyn financially than it was, right? I mean, even comparable to Manhattan, Brooklyn has become almost as expensive from a housing perspective. So it's not all perfect. And the challenge we face today, after 25 years of sort of driving some of this change, is how do we now create enough affordable housing in order to ensure that people who grew up here, people of different income stratas, can still afford to live here. We haven't figured that out. We haven't figured that out as a city, we haven't figured it out as a state. So it's one of our big challenges. Thank you. Thank you.
So this was really awesome because obviously Brooklyn, New York in general, Brooklyn in particular, as well as Greater New York, are very, very interested in USVI. That's why they're here. And anybody that's interested in partnering with the Virgin Islands, we're interested in speaking with. So really excited. Thank you. We have 2 New York Chamber CEOs with us. And at this time, I'm going to bring up Amber Batchelor. She is the president and CEO of the Sumter County, Georgia Chamber of Commerce. She is also the CEO of Batchelor Bradley Insights Group, and she is also the interim director of the BEST program that I was telling you about earlier. Amber, please. Now, do you like the podium or do you like to walk around?
Thank you so much. Thank you all so much for having me. This is, I think, my 3rd or 4th visit to USVI just within the last 12 months, which is incredible. very hospitable community. So what I want to talk to you a little bit about is the BEST program, the Black Executive and Student Training Program. So I'm going to ask for a little audience participation. So who is a first-generation college student? Anybody? I'm going to raise my hand because I was first-generation college student. Okay. All right, Herschel. Yes. All right, Rodney. So who remembers their first year in college, whether or not you were a first-generation college student? First year? Okay. So I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise with me. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes or look at the floor. And I want you to think back to when you first walked on the yard. Were you nervous? Were you hesitant? Could you smell the freshly cut grass? Could you hear the upperclassmen taunting the new freshmen? Could you hear someone's parents yelling at them like, I cannot wait to get back home? Like, what do you remember from your first day on campus? So I'll share with you and I'll open my eyes and invite you to do the same. And I remember I was terrified. I was terrified. I didn't know how I was going to pay for school. I didn't know what it took to stay in school and be successful. I just knew that if I made good grades, somebody would pay for me to stay there. That's how naive I was. And so what we find is that we still have students that need opportunities. We still have students that need nurturing and coaching and guidance, and they need someone to walk with them side by side. So I had the opportunity to be invited into a network just like that when I was in school. I got invited to serve on an executive advisory council for a global nonprofit, really. And I got to meet the CEO of Walmart Corporation, the general counsel for McDonald's Corporation, all these fantastic folks. I even had an interview with the CIA to do an internship, right? For all these really great opportunities. I was like, you know what? When I get an opportunity, I want to do the same thing. So just 3 years ago, I was invited to be one of the founding board members for the Black Executive and Student Training Program to do just that, create immersive opportunities for students through mentoring and coaching and guidance. And we're excited to be able to be here this week to talk to you and to learn about what the needs are in your different businesses or organizations. No topic dominates conversation with employers like workforce and workforce development. So there are so many different things that are happening right now, but you have to have people to work. You have to have people to show up to work virtually, to create new opportunities, to create new ideas. We have to have the human capital to be successful. So employers are telling us, you know, if you could create intimate opportunities for us to get one-on-one time with students, that is what we're looking for. So what BEST does, it creates unique mentoring opportunities for us to connect executives with students. We help them go from collegiate to career. So of course we know some folks that'll be entrepreneurship, but that's not everybody, right? We need people to work in environments, but we need them to have the right coaching, mentoring, and training. So we do a series of programs throughout the year, and we collaborate with historically Black colleges, universities, as well as minority-serving institutions. And we are based in Georgia, but we serve nationally. So we're excited about the University of the Virgin Islands because we will be one of the first programs similar to this. So we were excited to come and to be a part. So if you'll scroll, Anthony, all the way down to the very bottom. So this is just our website. We were telling a lot of our partners about the program here. And scroll one more time for me, Anthony, and go to media under site navigation. And we're going to show you just some snippets of some of the programming that we've done. So we've done town hall talks in collaboration with Howard University and their College of Journalism. We're really enthusiastic about those conversations because they talk about topics that students talk about on a regular basis, whether it's in the CAF or it's on social media, but we give them the right tools to be able to have those very dynamic conversations. And we invite executives to be a part of those conversations. Crafting your career. These are all virtual. We do a hybrid of virtual and in person. So crafting your career, we invited some younger folk as well as some seasoned executives to talk about their experience and what it took to customize their career opportunity, to really curate what was going to help them be successful. And if you'll keep scrolling for us, Anthony. Thank you. And then we did a follow-up. So we kind of did a part 1, part 2 for crafting your career, interview essentials, helping in terms of advocacy and mobilizing the HBCU vote. And then if you'll scroll down for us, this is just a little taste of some of our content. And we focus heavily on interviewing essentials because now more than ever, because our students are so caught up in the information age and in technology, they don't have those soft skills, those necessary skills to really make sure that they can make those conversation connections. They can go up to someone and give their elevator pitch and have an opportunity to elevate a conversation and turn it into a job opportunity. So that's across the nation, right? So we're excited to be able to continue to infuse interview skills and essentials into the type of content that we produce. And then we know that financial literacy is critical. Apps that you feel like currently exist in your kind of student community. And Pathway to Wall Street, they love that conversation. And we'll scroll down and we have our last one here. This is actually one of our first ones that we did. And we talked about really the case for the work that we're doing. Is there still a need to talk about historically Black colleges and universities? Is there still a need to say that Black executives need additional networks and trainings within their corporations? And the numbers have come back very strongly to say yes. Just like women, we need to have those networks and those conversations, be able to speak one-on-one. And that's just because of the trajectory of the corporate history in our country. And I'm sure you all have seen as well here in the territory. So we're excited to create safe spaces for those conversations to happen, safe spaces for those learnings to continue to grow. So what we do is we go on campus, we make contact with the president's office, with career services, and then again with individual schools. And then we go in and we bring executives from all over the country to train the students and have those intimate classroom conversations. And then we go a step further and we help to design one-on-one unique mentoring opportunities to make sure that students have a hands-on and intimate approach to learning lessons from executives that hope that students don't repeat some of the challenges that they have faced, or at least have a new perspective on how to address them. So what we'll be doing tomorrow is we will be collaborating with one of our founding board members, which is a chief executive from Diageo. So Captain Morgan, there's a distillery here, so that's a Diageo brand. We're really excited they've opened their doors for us after hours from 4 to 6 tomorrow. We'll be able to do a site tour and really enjoy the space, but also it's an executive reception. So everyone is invited to come. Any funding or any donations that we receive there will directly go to support the student programs that we are launching here in the Virgin Islands with the University of the VI. So we'll talk about specifically some areas of opportunity for people to get involved. And we're really looking forward to hosting an executive leadership retreat here next year. So we'll have an announcement to share with you all about that. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about the Black Executive and Student Training Program, and I look forward to connecting with you all a little bit further over the next few days.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amber. So we are going to stretch our legs for a little bit because when we come back, we're going to have our last forum, and this is the one around travel, tourism, wellness.
Time. It has a different meaning in the U.S. Virgin Islands. It goes backwards, forwards, it stops. St. Croix is rooted in history. So much of it still remains untouched.
I remember running on these streets as a kid. This shop was right down there. It opened the same year I was born. This is where the original Crucian Hook was born. It's the symbol of these islands. And I I wanted to have my hands in that very same history. I want to be able to pass it down to my family while still putting a new spin on it.
The U.S. Virgin Islands, we have an amazing culture that developed over time from all over the world.
St. John feels so untouched. Being underwater is like another world. There's no worries, there's no stress. I can just escape. This is my happy place. My passion for scuba diving came at just being fascinated with the water and wanting to be a mermaid. And this is the closest thing I can get to achieving mermaid status. Canadians just love being outdoorsy. We live for adventure, so we love anything hiking, being on the water, diving, snorkeling, and St. John has it all.
It's like some spirit is protecting the island and keeping them raw. The Makujumbi watches over the island. From up there, they keep the evil spirits away. The nightlife in St. Thomas is absolutely amazing. There's always something going on. Everyone comes together to dance and catch a vibe. We're always celebrating. We celebrate freedom, culture, the food, the smell, the music. It's always a celebration. The people here are probably the most priceless thing because they keep the culture going. There's so many different influences on these islands. Food from all kind of countries coming together in new dishes. All of us came from somewhere, but all that we call this home. The VI is a new melting pot. This is where the past and the future comes together.
kid who got his cool back. The people call me silly, baby, cause I mean that. See, they won't ever have a clue of what you do to me, what you do to me. I got to walk it with my head held high, got a real smooth stride now. Since you came dancing into my heart, got a brand new start, and I'm back in the groove because of you, baby. I'm flying high and feeling good lately. I tell you, I'm back in the groove because of you, baby. I'm flying high and feeling good lately. See, when you're really in the pocket, you don't ever wanna stop it, baby, cause you know it feels so good, yeah. See, when you're really in the pocket, you don't ever wanna stop it, baby, cause you know it feels so good, yeah. I'm back in the swiddly dum diddly dee, and I'm feeling bo-bo-bo-be-do-bo-be. I'm back in the swiddly diddly diddly dee, and I'm feeling do-do-do-do-do. I'm in the groove, I'm in the groove, and I'm feeling so good, cause you love me, baby. That's why I'm back in the groove because of you, baby. I'm flying high and feeling good lately. I tell you, I'm back in the groove because of you, baby. I'm flying high and feeling good lately.
Today we're taking a little vacation on the west end of St. Croix, visiting a seaside restaurant called the Beachside Cafe here at SEDI-CASE on the beach.
The atmosphere is just wonderful.
You just feel very welcome when you're here.
Hi! I'd like to introduce Chris and Ted, who are the owners of Beachside Cafe and also Sandcastles on the Beach. This is amazing!
Thank you. And friendly, relaxing.
I often entertain guests, and this is the one place I always try to bring people.
Tell us a little bit about the hotel.
Well, the hotel is a 25-room hotel. We have 10 different room types within that. We also have, of course, our greatest asset, the ocean out there, which our side of the island is very calm typically. So it's the best swimming beach and also great for snorkeling.
And just walking, doing a nice walking beach tour.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Best beach access is right here, so we love them.
And we're also fortunate we have just up the way Sandy Point National Park, and then Frederickstead Town is just a mile away.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really fortunate to be in this perfect spot.
Metro New York's port services are currently constrained and challenged in facilitating the handling of international cargo. It's time for a whole new ballgame. Just 55 miles north of the city, Stewart Airport, closed during the base realignment, is an underutilized resource that could be maximized and bring growth to the area and relieve New York City. It's an ideal place for a thriving supply chain center of regional excellence, called SCORE. We intend to support the New York and New Jersey Port Authority's commitment to the New York International Plaza, putting it at the forefront of a transformation of regional global trade, telecommunications, and economic growth. A logistics-based regenerative smart city that supplies an interactive platform of data and document interoperability to optimize resources. SCORE will transform this location into a thriving hub that can process and distribute cargo via various methods of transportation, elevating it to one of the world's best intermodal ports. We aim to build a cybersecure network operations center that enables customers to share data in real time across the supply chain and across the whole region, utilizing eco-friendly practices to keep things running efficiently. And it doesn't stop there. Not only will SCORE develop high-speed wireless networks in a data-driven city to improve logistics and facilitate international trade, it will also create critical infrastructure for regional economic development. By optimizing the business environment, attracting startups and investment, supporting the development of high-value industries such as medical, education, technology, and hospitality, creating new employment opportunities for the region. SCORE will inject vibrancy and inspire prosperity in an underutilized area to develop a greener and more livable smart city that thrives, bringing excellence to the Hudson Valley. It's a game changer. Visit IC Logistics to learn how you can support this SCORE Economic Development Initiative at Stewart Airport.
The SEDI-CASE 2023 USVI Winter Economic Summit will host business leaders of strategic partners from both the private and public sectors industry on December 7th to the 10th. The Winter Economic Summit will bring leaders together to discuss diversifying the U.S. Virgin Islands economy to foster better international trade, commerce, capital markets, foreign direct investments, leveraging innovative technology to improve public infrastructure, building an integrated, robust tech sector, bringing thought leaders from academia and knowledge-based sector for research and development in the Americas, the Caribbean, and globally. You're invited to attend and participate and be at the Economic Roundtable to determine and to better align the U.S. Virgin Islands economy for the future. Register now at www.wintersummit.us.
Sports, health, food, wellness. Work your way up, please. Whoever's going to be on the panel for sports, wellness, health, food. Am I forgetting any other category? I think that's it. There's 6. Amber? You know. Malloy? Yes. You represent the Department of Health. And Chef Eric Marshall? Grab the chairs. Just sit. Thank you, folks, so much for your participation so far for the day. It's been a long day. And we left this particular industry group discussion for last because it is the one thing that we do well. It literally dominates 65%, 70% of our GDP. And so we want to kind of take things from a different perspective. St. Thomas undoubtedly is our tourism product. All the major airlines fly directly from all the major markets. St. Thomas has an abundance of hotel rooms, and St. Thomas, in terms of its position, it is part of that chain of islands that makes it easy. You fly in and you can jump on a boat and sail to the BVI, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So St. Croix is a little bit different because St. Croix is further south. And it's a challenge, a little more of a challenge to get here. And so we need to, if you remember earlier I said, we can't just say we have white sandy beach, turquoise water, blue skies, and palm trees, because everybody offers that, okay? And we can't just say, well, we need more flights or we need more hotel rooms. Every major destination that is tourism related, whether it's New York known for Broadway, its museums, Orlando known for Disney World, et cetera, they gotta be a secret sauce. We gotta have something that is why people are willing to make the extra effort to come here. That being said, the panel that is sitting here today is comprised of experts, if you will, in their respective field. My colleague, Carolyn Howell, who is the team leader for the DMV, she has a very successful business in the event space. So she does a lot of corporate events, major events. So she knows hospitality very well. I'm very impressed with her. She does it like with eyes closed. And so she's going to moderate this panel because I think she's appropriate. She gets it. She's been to St. Croix several times and she knows what it's about. And so we're going to use this opportunity to be able to have each panel just give a little bit of background about themselves. But before I do that, though, I want to make a special recognition to our special guests. Celebrity chef and actor Eric Marshall is with us, and we're excited because Eric Marshall, if you know the Food Network and Martha Stewart and Company, he won the chop competition. Karen is funny. Yeah, it is. But he also plays an actor on East New York, that crime TV show, where bad cop, good cop kind of thing, So, and he does a lot of acting. But what I'm really excited about is because Eric is going to be the executive producer for the Caribbean Food Network in New York. Why is that important? Eric is very involved in the New York market. It's a big market. The New York market is significant for us because the Northeast is the largest market for us from a tourism perspective. And so having a foodie person that is well recognized in that market is going to be an important play for the U.S. Virgin Islands from a foodie perspective, but also from the fact that we also know that food is the one thing that people love to do. And so there is that perception of health, wellness, a place where you can escape to replenish yourself, but at the same time, enjoy good food. Then we have sports, music, food, sports, entertainment, huge. And so with us are the good folks from Himala Academy. They came in as a delegation of athletes, professional soccer players. Jabari is not up here, but he's back there, being all quiet, inconspicuous. He's the founder of Himala Academy, and I want to thank you for believing in the people and the youth of St. Croix. I am going to turn the microphone over to my colleague, Carolyn Howe, CEO of Events USA. She is going to moderate the panel. And John Clendenin is also, he decided to give the seat to Chef Eric Marshall, but John is a well-rounded athlete. He plays all kinds of sports. So he's going to play a big part in terms of the discussion on sports as well. Carolyn?
And we do want this to be a vigorous discussion. So we are going to have each of you speak, introduce yourself. If you have a presentation attached with it, we'll do that as well. But I do want to say this, and Anthony, thank you so much for giving us the facts relative to the U.S. Virgin Islands and St. Thomas. And we love all three of the islands. I think they're amazing. But I think there's beauty in allowing your weakness to become your strength. So you say, oh, there's so many hotels someplace else. I love the solitude I feel when I hit St. Croix. And you say, yeah, there's lots of flights everywhere, and we can still get here. I have to connect either through Charlotte or Miami, or I can go to Philly, but I can still get here. So the beauty of coming here and having 84 delicious miles of amazing United States in the middle of the Caribbean is fantastic for me. So I just think if that's a weakness, that's pretty strong to me. So love it and ready to get into the discussion. So I'm going to start on my far right. And would you please introduce yourself? I'm going to say your name, and then you can say everything else. This is Dr. Barbara Brown. And please.
Hello. Good afternoon. I'm so pleased to be here. This is the third time I've been in St. Croix this year, and it's because we have an interest in creating something here in terms of wellness. So Anthony, do you have my PowerPoint? So again, I am here representing 3 doctors. We are mind-body doctors, and we have in mind to bring wellness activities to St. Croix. And wellness, as you probably know, is one of the fastest growing industries that there is. And wellness, while it is a state of being, it is also a science. And so Mind Body Doctors is bringing together physicians and a psychologist to really integrate services for people. And we will be bringing, we are working with hopefully the Carambola in creating weekends and then growing our services over time. But we just had our presentation up.
Okay. And it's really okay. And so Dr. Barbara Brown, thank you so much. I will tell you that she is the founder and CEO of the Capitol Hill Consortium for Counseling and Consultation. They have 5 locations in the Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the DMV. They see nearly 1,000 patients a week. Yeah. Say it again.
I said, did you want me to continue while he's...
I was going to, if you run out of words, you know I have them. Okay, it's loading, so you go right ahead.
Oh, okay. So as I said, I'm one of 3 of the doctors, and as Carolyn is so kind to say that I am the CEO and founder of Capitol Hill Consortium for Counseling and Consultation, as she said, and then my colleagues are Dr. Barbara Hutchinson, who's a cardiologist, and Dr. Angela Marshall, who is a physician, an internist as well. So we are not finding it. Oh, I'm so sorry.
And there we have it, see?
Thank you. Thank you. So mind body doctors, again, we have been very trained. We've been doing medicine and mental health for decades. And we have been trained in Western philosophy. And so we have been doing primarily tertiary care when people have symptoms. And I will be talking about that tomorrow when we're talking about innovation in healthcare and the pain points and how we're trying to solve them there. But because we also know that people really want to feel well and have a need to feel well, we also wanted to take on primary care and secondary care. So doing wellness and really trying to do preventative work is also what we want. So if you can go to the next slide, Anthony. So as I said, we are 2 physicians and a psychologist in partnership, and we really want to create personalized experiences in healthcare. And so we want to really bring measurement experience in cardiology, in internal medicine, and in psychology and mental health, so that we can take people's individual experiences and then customize programming for them in the wellness, through wellness retreats. And so, as I said, we can do it for the busy corporate professional or people who want to do personal getaways. So our goals are to reduce stress, to promote productivity, to enhance healthier lifestyles, and to really support the medical tourism in St. Croix. We found this to be a very friendly environment for us to grow, and they're very interested in having us here. Anthony? Thank you. So a little bit more about us. I'll start with Dr. Barbara Hutchinson. She is double boarded in both cardiology and sleep medicine. And she is the chairperson of the Association of Black Cardiologists. And she has also started working with Flourish as the medical director and doing clinical trials, which is really important for the diversity. And she really, looking at both cardiology and sleep and how interrelated they are, she really feels strongly that sleep is so necessary to the foundation of wellness. Dr. Angela Marshall is board certified in internal medicine, but she is a women's specialist, and she owns and operates comprehensive women's services. And she is also the current chair of the Montgomery Medical Society in Maryland. And as Carolyn said, I have been a CEO and the founder and owner of the Capitol Hill Consortium for counseling and consultation. We've been around for 15 years. And I'm very proud to say that as a small business, it came out of my private practice, and now we have over 70 therapists, and we are providing care throughout the DMV. So what we have in mind is really to be in a setting such as this, Carambola, where people come here and they just naturally feel better just being in this beautiful environment. But then we want to take our measurements in physical, comprehensive measurement in physical and mental health areas, and really have people then have specialized and personalized care over the course of a weekend or whatever they need. So for instance, here's a list of things that we can do. But for the mental health part, again, when you think about mental health, you think about resilience and stress management. You think about flexibility in terms of being able to adapt to change easily. You think about people's social acumen, and so they don't feel isolated, so they feel a sense of belonging. You look at their self-concept and their self-esteem, and you look at the balance that they have in their life or not. And so taking a measurement of all of those things and then trying to have programming, whether it's educational or experiential, to help them in whatever area that they want or they need to find better health in, will take them to a different place over the course of a weekend. And then we will have them join a cohort with other people who are in the same place. And over the course of the year, then continue in monthly groups and have coaching as well as support groups to increase their ability to reach optimal health. And we'll do the same thing in cardiovascular health, sleep hygiene, as well as general physical health. You can go on to the next one. So we are targeting, again, C-suite executives, teachers, clergy, healthcare workers, people who are in high-stress jobs who really need a place and a space to come and get grounded and then build from there for their optimal health. I was talking to the deans of students at the University of Virgin Islands yesterday, and we were talking about maybe doing something for the faculty and staff there. And again, we can target anyone who is in need of self-care or who wants to optimize their health. Next. So again, how we differentiate ourselves. As I said, wellness is a state of being, but it's also a science. So we're bringing the scientific part to do the measurement and then personalize the care. So again, mindfulness, nutrition, that's not medically oriented is how most wellness retreats are operating. And they're very helpful, they're beneficial, but we feel like we can bring something different by bringing together experts in our different fields and bringing a program that, again, will meet people where they are to get to their optimal health. Next. So we believe that better health is on the way through participating in our wellness retreats that are coming in 2024. And so this is the way to reach us at this point through our QR code. And I will be happy to take questions along the way.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And please excuse me for jumping ahead. Sometimes I just love talking about you and about the practice, and I'm excited about what's coming, but I'm going to contain that. As we move to our next group, we'll do all the introductions and then we'll do questions at the end. So Aswan, please.
Well, I don't have a PowerPoint or anything like that, no. But I'll just make it brief. My name is Aswan Crookshank, and I grew up in a Caribbean household, and I grew up playing American football all the way from 7 through 22, so 15 years. I finished playing at Stony Brook University. So when he was talking about New York, it was kind of, interesting to hear how it's crazy to think now Brooklyn and Manhattan is the same place to live in. So, but once I was through playing football, I became a 4-time published author, and I felt a need to give back to the game. And when you're talking about any sports, not just American football, and you're talking about a game, it creates so many possibilities for our young people. So I'm really, really excited to have this conversation and, talk about how we can enhance ways and create opportunities for our young Caribbean kids to get more involved in sports, but not necessarily to go pro, but to use it as a ticket for an education. Because everybody in here knows 1% is going to play pro, make it pro, right? The majority of them are going to I got to say it, Jabari, I know. It's a difficult reality, but 1%, All right, that means maybe if all of you guys have the same dream of playing professionally in here, one of us will get a tryout. That does not mean that they're failures in life. That does not mean they can't have a pretty darn good life, right? If we teach them that the lessons that they learn along the way they're gonna apply to businesses, they're gonna apply to the way they treat people, they're gonna apply the way they build teamwork. So I can go on a rant about that. Just check me out again. The correct spelling to my name is Aswan Crookshank. I'm pretty sure if you look me up, I'm the only one that you're gonna find. So, just go ahead and look me up, and I look forward to having the conversation.
Thank you so much. Please, lovely lady.
Hi, everyone. My name is Megan Gusline. I am the operations director for Imala Academy. My founder and CEO back there, Jabari, had a conversation with me about 2 years ago, and we've been friends for over 8 years now. I'm in business, but I'm also an ex-athlete. I've played 2 World Cups for Canada at Rugby League, and I know what it's like to be an athlete that doesn't have the opportunity or the resources to be able to get what I need to get on the field when I need it. And so when Jabari came to me and he said, I have this vision to provide a hole, to fill the hole that there is between the athletes who can and the athletes who can't. The sports industry as a whole has this disparity when it comes to talent and accessibility. And so with Imala, it's a residential football program. And when I say football, I'm not talking the NFL, I'm talking European football here. Yeah, exactly, the real football. And, and the goal is to put athletes between the ages of 13 to 17 into programs where they will live on the island here. They will go to school. They will get the technical and tactical tools that they need to not only flourish on the field, but also to become well-rounded people. We know that, as we just said, our careers last a certain time, right? We don't always go till we're 40, 50. And so being able to step off the field and know that there's a support system or that there's a pathway forward that isn't just what do I do now, but hey, I have my degree, I have this college experience, or not only that, is I've had this experience playing pro and now I can merge that into whether it's coaching, whether it's SNC. And so the opportunity for Imala here in the Virgin Islands is actually gapping that for Caribbean athletes. And we know that that disparity exists, and that's why we're here. And so thank you for St. Croix for giving us the opportunity, and we're very much looking forward to building on St. Croix land and giving opportunities to UBI athletes as well as other Caribbean athletes. So
Thank you so much. And can you give us the spelling of your website or of the academy's name?
of course. So Imala is IMALA and then academy.org.
Thank you very much.
You're
We'll get
very
back to you with questions. And then we're going to move. So we've had a little bit of wellness, a little bit of sports, and now we're going to get into Amber. And now we just saw you in a different role, but we know that you wear many, many hats and you wear them all well. Can you share with us your thoughts around, we're doing travel, tourism, agriculture, everything? Feel free.
Thank you so much again for inviting me.
You're on. Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you having my back. So thank you all so much for having me. So this is a phenomenal panel. Like I'm over here just like really engrossed in everything that you all are saying and trying to figure out what space that I could share something unique with you. And I would have to say it would be around agriculture, agritourism, agribusiness, and also around business travelers and kind of culture and heritage travel. So in my background, I've been in and around the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development industry for about 17 years. And a few of those different organizations, we focused on tourism. And I ran a DMO, which is a destination marketing organization. And we focused on what made our area special and what drew people there. And we were in Florida. We weren't trying to be the Orlandos of Florida or the Miami. We were really wanting to make sure that we could provide the intrinsic values that our unique area brought to people. So when Anthony was talking about the Northeasterners are the kind of the number one volume of travelers, they were the number one volume of travelers that came to our little destination in Florida. So when I was able to come visit here, I saw there's so many direct correlations between what we see in rural communities and what we see on the territory or in the territory. So how you pair kind of the agritourism with it is when people come to St. Croix, they're looking for unique travel opportunities. They're not looking for something that's super mainstream. So when I had the opportunity to come and Miss Carolyn, it was really nice to be with you, as well as Dr. Barbara Brown. We saw that there were several different segments of travelers to come here, and they're all looking for kind of that cultural, historical tour experience. So I'm excited to be able to help have that conversation a little bit more in depth to see how can we increase the volume of travelers looking for that intrinsic value specifically to come to St. Croix. And I'm excited to be able to share some of my background to be able to make some of those very specific connections. And agritourism is really important because coming from Georgia, where I'm based, agriculture is the number one industry there and number one economic driver. So when people come here, going beyond farm to table, and I know Chef will talk about the more culinary aspect of it, just on the creating the opportunities for people to get here and know that that opportunity exists. That is something I'm really excited to hear more about really from the panel on what those opportunities could look like and then how we could support in a consultative aspect of it. I've hosted women's wellness retreats with luxury brands that's what they did, but we were just the connectors. We provided the opportunity and they provided all of the space. So this is going to be a really nice opportunity to hear more about the wellness here for St. Croix because you're going to get a wealth of new travelers and volume. And the other aspect of that is increasing the amount of lanes, to Anthony's point, for travel. So with my economic development background and tourism background, there's some really great conversations that you can have to build a strong campaign to increase your lanes for direct travel or to increase your lanes to higher populated connections for people to get here. So I hope you'll be able to share something special.
Thank you, Amber. And you're passing that on to Chef Eric Marshall. All right, Chef.
I like to stand up. So
please.
I am Chef Eric Marshall. I am Chop Champion from Food Network, the show Chopped. And I'm Stop it. I'm a celebrity chef. I do have a couple questions. Who likes to live? That's a good question. And what do you need to live? Some food, right? And I cook food. So one of the things is I am on CFN, which is Caribbean Food Network. I do have my own show on there called Kitchen Vibes. It's basically we're vibing in the kitchen, just talking. But I'm also the head of the New York market now. So one of the things we want to do is just show everything that we can do for the Caribbean in the Virgin Islands. I want to have everyone in the New York and possibly DC offices and the people out there just to understand what food is and what we're doing with food here. Because like the agriculture piece, I have my own seasoning line, but I want to use the Virgin Islands to use their spices and what they have to create a seasoning line as well. I want this to be a destination spot where people say, where do I want to go? You know what? I want to go to St. Croix because I heard they have amazing food there. I want this to be somewhere people can have like different adventures. Like we're going to have a crab hunt or whatever, live out in the wild, learn how to forage and hunt if there's hunting out here. But I want this to be a destination location. I want to come out here a couple times a year and people are like, you know what? Chef E's out there. Let's go cook. Or just because it's St. Croix, I want people to say they have this amazing dishes. They have this amazing whatever out here because I want this to be a destination. My aunt lived out here for like 10 to 15 years and she loved it. And I started coming out here. I met Anthony. I was like, oh man, this is a beautiful spot. Like even the resort that we are at now, it's so peaceful. I live in New York. this is peace to me. and I love peace. Anthony hit me up. I'm gonna tell you the story real quick. I was out there on the beach chilling, and Anthony's like, I need you to get here. I'm like, Jesus. You know what? I'm coming. You know what? I want everyone to know what I want to do, what I want St. Croix to look at. You know, there's St. Thomas, but people don't know a lot about St. Croix. But I want this to be the destination to come to. I want people to like food, St. Croix. Excitement, adventure, St. Croix. Spices, St. Croix. Health. I'm an athlete too. I used to have a great, great body. And then I started cooking. And you see from my profile, it kind of, there's an addition here. But I want to get that. That's why we need the wealth and wellness. I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. But, you know, I wanted to be a place where we all derive, just come together, enjoy. I want to hold cooking classes. People come out, you know, how do I make this dish? And I don't know everything. Failure is like the basis of my life, because the more you fail, the more you know and learn and to succeed. Because when doors get closed, then you're like, you know what? Instead of being mad about it, it's constructive criticism. It's like, what can I do next? Or what can I do now to make it better? And that's what all of us should talk about in our lives. When people shut you down, it's a good thing. Because now it's like, you know, let me refine this, or it might not be that time, or it might not be that door for you. So that being said, I want you to eat, and I want to eat.
Awesome.
And I want everyone to eat in St. Croix.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will be tasting some of your cuisine on Saturday at the VIP Tasters event, correct? So this is something, if you can change your flight, if you were leaving earlier, you want to change it for this, literally. And last but not least, we have Dwayne Benjamin. Is that you on the end? No, excuse me. No, it's not. No, thank you, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Ruben Malloy.
Malloy.
Yes. I am one of the assistant commissioners at the Virgin Islands Department of Health. And it is a pleasure to be here today. The future is bright for the Virgin Islands.
Love it.
Between Tuesday, Wednesday, and today, there's going to be an influx of people into the Virgin Islands. The governor talked yesterday and the day before about there being $20 billion in recovery funds to rebuild the infrastructure damaged by the two hurricanes, and his intention to contract out $7 billion of that in 2024. So there will be an influx of people in the Virgin Islands. That influx, those people will bring with them their entire persons, their disease burden. So we at the Department of Health have to focus and ensure that the healthcare infrastructure can support, maintain, improve upon the health of those individuals. That is one of Governor Bryan's priorities, healthy Virgin Islands, healthy in his Healthy Horizons initiative, codified in his Healthy Horizons initiative, improve the healthcare infrastructure, which he is, as I mentioned, is far along in doing. So the Commissioner of Health, Justa Encarnacion, who is my boss, make sure I get that in, has accepted the challenge and is leading us to create and establish that environment. I was born and raised here on St. Croix.
Love it. Love it.
And I came back because of my love for where I was born and raised. In our culture, we show our love by food. And as you can tell, I am very loved. So, yeah, so I'm looking forward. I'm loving what I'm hearing. And we are fully engaged at the Department of Health as we are challenged or it is our responsibility to sort of predict the future and create the healthcare infrastructure that can support all of what you're discussing here.
Love it. Thank you so much, Mr. Malloy. Appreciate it. And we're going to bring you up front to actually speak from this
Carolyn,
microphone.
also Dale Brown is also here.
Yes. Oh, fantastic.
Food tourism, agriculture, local farmers. So just
And we'll
one
have Mr. Glendon come on up first, and then we'll bring him up.
All right, as I begin, I want to introduce first one of our virtual guests and presenters, Mr. Mark Hayden. And Mark was, he has an interesting resume, but I met him in another life. 25 years ago, I bought the Miami Tropics from John Lucas, a USBL basketball team, and moved it to become the Treasure Coast Tropics. And on that team, Mark was one of our professional basketball players. He's moved on, and he's an NBA pro scout right now. He's an NBA Players Association consultant. He's a worldwide top trainer in athletics. He is in charge of development overseas for pro trainer and player development, and he is also the founder and president of the Next Level Sports Worldwide. So I'd like to have Mark speak first. Mr. Haddon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Could everybody hear me? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hello. Hello.
We're working on your voice, Mark, but
Okay.
For those of you who have never coached or things like that, this is a familiar activity with me and Mark, because he would be running down the court, mouthing something to the coaches and the owners, and we wouldn't really understand, but I understand what he's trying to say.
Okay, my mic is on.
Okay. So Mark, it's not going to work, but listen in, and then I'll debrief you. But what Mark was going to give us an information on is, in our sports industry, how does that work with professional sports and engagements and having tournaments, and how to attract athletes, as we've talked about before. So that's the business of sports that I'll talk about briefly. So Mr. Weeks mentioned that I was an athlete, or am an athlete. And our colleague said that we want to be able to keep going until our 30s or 40s. Well, I'm still a competitive athlete. I'm qualified for All-American status. I play football, so I'm a goalkeeper now. But I played I played over 70 soccer, and we won the national championships in the over 65 division in 2016. But I'm currently on the U.S. Virgin Islands national team, and I throw the hammer, the shot put, and the discus, and I've qualified for those All-American statuses, and I'm competing now in the over 75 division. So I've been competing since 1954. I won my first medals in swimming, and I know I competed through my life, mostly in wrestling. I wrestled on the U.S. Marine Corps wrestling team, Greco-Roman and freestyle at 220 for 8 years. I have been competing in judo and aikido. I've competed in the hammer and won the gold medal in the Asia Games in 1978. I won the national championships with the pistol. I'm a distinguished with the rifle and on the Marine Corps Critchfield team. And so as I've competed over the years, I turned it into, as I always competed and gone to school and worked. So I was on the senior faculty at Harvard Business School In 1999, I taught the business of sports and also building information age businesses. So I have this technical background in business logistics, but I do that in sports. When I was Senior Associate Dean of Postgraduate Programs in Instituto de Empresa in Madrid, what we had a master's in sports management and the business of sports again. So what I want to talk about here briefly is that currently I'm working with, as a sports psychologist for the Track and Field Association. I've been working with the Surfing Association, stand-up paddles. We had the Coconut Cup here. I'm working as the sports psychologist for the Virgin Islands Olympic team. John Abramson couldn't be here today. But when we look at how do we attract the business of sports to the island, you know we're building the stadium for competition there. We have major competitions in triathlon. We're able to attract different things as a destination to do that. I'm the compliance manager for FIBA with the Virgin Islands Soccer Association. And so we've been having preliminary World Cup events and things here. We have the new FIBA Stadium in Bethlehem. That's world class. And so there's all other sports that are here. We have other Virgin Islands athletes in this room. Somebody that disguises himself as the CEO of the oil refinery is really one of our Virgin Islands national athletes, and he competes in 10-pin bowling, and so as well as sports fishing. But Dave would tell you there's nothing, for me, competing at Brooklyn Tech, and then as a Marine, competing against Interservice, and then as an international athlete representing the United States, and then now wearing for IVA, the Virgin Islands. There's nothing like representing your flag. And I think that Dave has experienced, that other people do here. When we bring that sports tourism here, we can bring those ability to have workshops. Dr. Brown was talking about wellness. We can have those kinds of clinics and associations where we can attract people worldwide to come here for sports. So that's, yeah. Okay, Mark, Anthony has a speaker now. Can you try and see if we can hear you?
Hello, can you hear me now? Hello?
Something just fell to the floor, Anthony. Okay,
Hello.
so we'll keep smiling, Mark, because we know that he goes back and forth between Florida and California, and has a pro basketball affiliation and team out there. But those are the things that we're talking about, and I've talked about with Mark. When we had the USBL team, there's different levels of sports, as we talked about. The people that can compete in high school and then can compete in college, and the pyramid gets smaller. And those people that go to Division III, Division II, Division I, now they're talking about a Super Division I where they can pay the athletes. And then those people that can eventually go to sports. And so I work with sports teams around the world as a consultant for visual imagery, mental rehearsal, working with the athletes. We have something called sports psychology techniques for business effectiveness, where I work with CEOs. But I work primarily in Europe with Instituto de Empresa with Football Club Barcelona. So Barça is my club. I have personal friends that I've worked with. I have signed jerseys with Messi and Suarez and Neymar. And we work with La Messina, which is a club there for the youth that Messi went to when he was 7 years old. So we have that opportunity to take our youth and train them in the different kinds of sports. We have horsemanship that we can have people competing in. Swimming is a competitive advantage. We have football. I played, well, some of you will know I'm a number 3 tight head prop. So that I played rugby until I was 50, and then I got old, so I do other things. But the point is that the sports, living well and eating well and nutritionally, having your proper sleep patterns and being able to do that, to be able to, as there are aging population, there's seniors, the baby boomers that were born in the 40s, we need to stay healthy. And some people are not healthy, but hopefully, when I'm not healthy anymore, I'll stop competing, but I'm not planning on doing that anytime soon. So if we can't get Mr. Hayden, yeah? Okay. Okay, so we still have another shot because see, okay, speak Anthony, because they can hear you and they're going to relay what you're saying because the people here think that perhaps you're more than a pretty face.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello.
Keep speaking, Mark. We're going to try to broadcast what you're saying.
Okay. So you want me to keep speaking?
Yeah, it's a delay, Mark, so just don't wait to hear what you're saying. Just keep speaking.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Mark Hatton. I, like Mr. John Clendenin gracefully said,
While Anthony's doing that, I want to throw somebody under the bus because one of the premier technology people. Keep speaking, Mark. We're going to try to broadcast what you're saying.
Okay. Again, so you want me to keep speaking?
Yes, we hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a delay, Mark, so just don't wait to hear what you're saying. Just keep speaking.
Okay, I am honored. Okay, good afternoon. I am honored my to name be is Mark among you Hatton. guys. John, Mr. John Clendenin has said, gracefully said, we've been knowing each
While
other
Anthony's
since
doing that, I
tonight.
want to throw somebody under the bus.
We're
because
talking
one of the
1996 when we did have the
people.
credit
Keep
card.
speaking, Mark. We're going to try to broadcast what you're
And so our relationship goes a long ways. I like to think that John gave me the opportunity in terms
Yes, we hear you.
of ownership, basketball,
Yeah, it's a delay, Mark, so just
even more so than playing. But now I'm with the NBA. And my job now is to, of the 400 players, try to work the best players to the NBA. We've been knowing each
While Anthony's doing that, I want to throw somebody under the bus. Because one of the premier.
Right now with Sacramento, Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta
Okay,
Hawks.
so thank you. So we're gonna cut and we're gonna get this right because we have some other speakers tomorrow that will be on the Zoom. But Mark is a tremendous Christian and an athlete and has worked tremendously with the youth, particularly in South Florida. And as he matured after being a professional athlete and playing and became a coach, he went through that procedures with his family and his faith and made a significant difference for the youth in Florida. He was then recruited to come and bring his message to the California with the pro teams out there and started working with the NBA and the athletes. So there's different ways of looking at the business of sports. As you know, in the USBL league, where everybody, Manute Bol was one of the people that went there, and Nancy Lederman, and different people that went Muggsy Bogue with coming and trying to get into the professional leagues, and it's a difficult thing to do. But Mark has not only made it from a professional athlete into the NBA, but now he's instructing and leaving and making a significant difference. And so I appreciate that he called in today. But the business of sports, to conclude on my aspect, is that as we increase the notion of living here and living well and doing those things and having opportunities for our youth when they start young, they need that role model. I was talking with my friend Dave about his daughter, and she wanted to swim. And, he made a significant choice. He said, look, there's a difference between hanging out and just going there and messing around, or saying if we're going to make that commitment as a family to get up in the morning at 6 o'clock and to go to meets and to travel internationally, that's a significant commitment. And the people that that make it to the ranks, like whether it's Steve Curry, whose parents got him along the way, or the people that make that significant investment in Canada with hockey players and getting ice time, you need those 10,000 hours. So whether it's somebody that does their 10,000 hours in cooking or in medicine or in sports, here in our community, as I see it, it takes all of us in the whole village to be able to do that And I think it's the sports tourism aspect of having people come in here, using our hotel facilities, making the environment so that you can come and hold those competitions. That's what we're looking at with the track meet now. We can have world track events if we can just build a stadium. So we have the opportunity to build the stadiums for the colleges and the high schools. But if we look at that as a business of how do we attract international aspects, I know FIFA will come here as a destination, and I know other places will as well. So thank you. Okay. Yeah, I think Mr. Weeks wants you to try one more time, Mr. Haddon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me?
Keep talking.
Hello.
We can hear you. Keep talking, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be on the call. Of course, I've been knowing Mr. Clendenin since the 90s. As he explained, gave me an opportunity to not only play, but to run his team, the USV Treasure Coast Tropics, and that was back in 1996. And from there, I've been a player coach, traveling the world, and of course, my love has always been the NBA. In 1993, I did play. I was with the Lakers on a non-guaranteed contract. At that time, there was a lot of opportunities to go overseas. And of course, it wasn't the same, the NBA like it was now, back in the 90s. And so I took my talents, as LeBron James says, overseas, and made a beautiful, beautiful living. But I never, forgot about my love for the game, for the love of basketball. At this present time, I am helping the Sacramento Kings, Cleveland Cavaliers, the Atlanta Hawks, and during my time in the USBL, I became good friends with a guy by the name of Darryl Chocolate Thunder Dawkins. He was a center for the Philadelphia 76ers. He was my president at Next Level Sports worldwide. He just passed away in 2015. But Darryl was one of the founders of Next Level Sports. He was one of the guys that kept me working the NBA, helping student athletes get to college, get to the pro level. I think back in the 90s, I think we counted over 200 kids that we was able to get athletic academic scholarships all over the world. And of course, my time in the NBA, now I've been fortunate to have over 7 NBA first round picks. I've trained several of NBA players that made it to the NBA that's now playing in the NBA. And of course, I work real close with the NBA Players Association, with Joe Dumars and these guys that's really great friends of mine. And so Commissioner Adam Silver, we're very close. This is a new NBA. And what we're trying to do now here in the USA is build the best brand that we can build. We understand in the next 3 or 4 years, LeBron James, he's at magnificent at 38. Stephon Curry, 34, 35. These guys got about 3 or 4 more years. And what we're trying to do now is find the best basketball players to take us into that next generation of players. Because the LeBron James, the Stephon Currys, Jimmy Butlers, these guys are about to retire. Now, one of the things that I love about what just a little bit that John explained to me is that only 400 players can play in the NBA. And I think that's one of the things that I loved about what John did back in the 90s. You know, all of us wasn't going to go to the NBA. But what the USBL did is gave us an opportunity to still play professionally, to continue work and to continue our craft, which is why I got involved with the ABA, several minor league teams that I'm owner of now. You know, I'm so busy doing a lot of things, and because the NBA is, right now we're into our NBA season, and everybody's trying to win the championship. So, I've been asked to try to find the best players all around the world, and that's the talent that God gave me. I have an eye for talent. I still love the game. I'm still a young 55, and like John, I still play. But I want to. I want the game to go to another level. And again, with just some of the small talk that me and John had, um, I have players that want to go to the next level, and you know, anything that's up to Bill in the Virgin Islands. I do know some about the Virgin Islands. Um, um, I would be willing. I would look forward to it actually. Bringing NBA players to the Virgin Islands, making it a stumping ground for training, if you will. You got a lot of the USA players that will come over and train. Um, I would look forward to doing things of that nature, expanding that horizon, if you will, if that be the Virgin Islands, and just maybe one day we're having a professional team even there. I know Adam Silver listens to me. I have him on speed dial. I let him know all the things that I'm involved in and what's going on. And you know, the pro sports is we're worldwide now. It's not just we're talking about global now. When you talk about professional sports, and I feel
Mark,
fortunate.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Your voice is very faint, but I think we got the gist of what you're saying. That you are motivated and you are prepared to avail yourself and all of your relationships to help develop sports tourism. And we apologize for the technical difficulty, the AV situation here. The speaker's not working. It's not coming through the main speaker. So let's pause there because there's one more speaker that has to present one of the local celebrity farmers, prominent farmers. And I want to thank you for your contribution, your input, Mark. Really appreciate it. Look forward to circling back with you and following up, okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So as Anthony goes there, so just to summarize what I talked to Mark about is those of you that are familiar with IMG, what we're talking about is with part of our attraction is to get those coming up NBA players that need a place to train, that can do body, mind, and spirit work here in the territory, that we can do that with multiple sports. So it can become a training environment, not only for chefs, but for all of us to work here. And he's committed to bringing in his NBA connections and stuff to help.
Makes sense. Makes sense. It's all in tandem. We have a great relationship with the Fenway Sports, who owns Pittsburgh Penguins, Red Sox. We have a close relationship with the Celtics, with the Patriots in terms of Boston. And so the idea is having the network of doctors like Dr. Barbara Brown, Dr. Barbara Hutchison, and Angela Marshall, and other related doctors, and working with the Department of Health to create the right environment. The idea is to work with these professional athletes and franchise during the off season to be able to attract those caliber of players to the territory for sports tourism, and to be able to help coordinate that with the young people as well. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me apologize for my tardiness because I was trying to catch up on some stuff, so I don't have to go back and do it later. Okay, myself and my wife sitting just behind Mr. Weeks. We are owners of Sager Farm of the Virgin Islands. Sager Farm is a sevenfold farm. We do several things, and some of those things are we grow livestock, we raise livestock. We do crop production. We do marketing of our produce. We have a farmer's market on the farm. We also work with farmers throughout the territory. And one of the things that we try to engage in is actually the education of farmers for the industry. It's very important that we focus on that and remain advocates for the development of our agriculture industry. Now, as in reference to tourism, I'm not going to try to be too long as everyone else, but I would like to be more engaging, okay, of what I do and what we are actually promoting. And since that I'm here late and I didn't hear everybody, I'm going to just ask you your name, that you say your name and what you do in just one word. Muller. Okay.
Aswan Crookshank, a facilitator of teamwork.
Great.
Dr. Barbara Brown with Mind Body Doctors to do wellness activities and through the science of wellness.
Good thing.
Amber Batchelor, Strategic Connector of People and Opportunities.
Great.
I'm Chef Eric Marshall. I do cooking in New York and the greater DC area.
Don't worry, Mr. Clinton, you never fail me. You never fail me.
I'm the other chef, Eric Marshall. Chop champion. I just love to cook and to feed people. That's my passion.
Beautiful. Of course, I know, Mr. Malloy. Now, the reason why I did that is because we all are saying the same thing, but there's somewhat of a disconnect because we are not actually engaged with one another in some form or manner. And it all boils down to food. Food. Local food is one of the most nutritious food that you can get because it's more accessible. It's not sitting on the shelf for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, but it can be immediate. Here in the territory, around tourism, food for a Virgin Islander or anyone in the Caribbean is part of their culture. It's part of our tradition. And it's part of our custom, the things that we are accustomed of doing. And we can't separate food from nothing that we do. Matter of fact, food is the bottom of the totem pole that holds all the statues up. There's nothing that you do that does not include food. Food is for the mind, it's for the body, it's for the spirit. Food is the facilitator of everything that we do. And oftentimes we don't really think of it. So when we're thinking of people traveling back and forth, you don't want to really consume foods that you have already tasted from where you're coming from. You want to engage in what is locally grown to see the difference. Because every land that you go produce something that, even though it's the same product, but the taste is totally different. The soil. And Virgin Islands soil is one of the most productive soil that you can find. Some of it has been missed because of mishap, but it's also because of what we have in our land, on our landmass. And most of the plants that we have here in the territory that actually build our soil is legume, because they fix nitrogen into the soil, their leaves drop, and they give that decomposition, which help and continue to build our soil. We all know about tantan, which is invasive, that was brought in. But because it's a legume, it has added to our soil base. Tamarind, that's a legume. Saman, that's a legume. We call it licorice. We have tippet, that's a legume. So you see the amount of things that we have that can actually build our food towards where we want to go in tourism. So food production is paramount to everything that we're doing here. And increasing our food production and adding it to our tourism base, whether it's cultural food, using local ingredients, is one of the things that we promote. A matter of fact, at Sager Farm, we have one event which takes place every October. That event is Bush Cook, Chef Cook. And it refers to cooking unconventionally. That is no stoves, no ovens, but rather hole in the ground, 3-stone coal pot. And the chef doesn't know what he's going to cook, except for those who are doing flesh protein. And they're given in advance the protein which they need. And all those proteins are grown locally, raised locally: lamb, goat, chicken, pork, rabbit, and anything else that is grown or raised locally that is added to the menu that they're going to prepare. You like it? Okay. It's better than a TV show. I'm going to tell you that. A matter of fact, it's a food sovereignty, food security initiative to bring about the awareness of local food that can also attract individuals that are coming to the territory. So I knew that was coming. I knew that was coming. But so said I love it. Mr. Malloy, his son, Dante, nephew has won the Bush Cook Chef Cook twice in a row, first place. So what this does, the Bush Cook Chef Cook, is a 3-day event. The first day is educating the community on we're having different workshops and educating children. The second day is the main event where the chefs come to the farm, 25 chefs, and then they go to the farmer's market. All the produce at the farmer's market is locally grown. They don't know what they're going to do. They grab, and then they go to their stations. Within 3 to 4 hours, they have completed a course or something that is going to be sampled by everyone. So the patrons begin coming. They can come early and watch a chef how they do their thing. And they sample, or they can eat from every chef, 25 chefs. So they can go through and just enjoy themselves. It's a family setting. So you have the opportunity to actually engage and ask the chef questions about the food that they're eating and how they prepare it. And then the third day is a farm to table, sit down, elegant dinner. 7 courses. So you get the opportunity to taste the Virgin Islands at its best. And those same chefs, they are the one that created the menu for the dinner. I say all this to say is that we have the opportunity, we have that, we have the charisma, we have everything that it takes to be part of wellness, health, culinary, whatever it is that we are part of, because food or agriculture will let you know that your discipline is a derivative of it, any which way you put it, because you can't continue your discipline if you don't have that first meal of the day. So therefore, we want to actually make it possible that individuals coming to the territory can actually experience local food and what it can do and help in promoting our economic base in the territory. Thank you.
Thank you. Carolyn, just real quickly, on the screen is Mark Gordon. He's the owner of the Carambola Beach Resort. Mark, I explained to Mark, Carolyn, that we're experiencing technical difficulties. He was going to be so kind to do a presentation about the resort and what they're doing here. And the reason for that is because Mark he's met with the doctors, and this property is going to be one of the key partnerships with the doctors for health and wellness to really position and establish St. Croix as a wellness destination. Also, from a culinary perspective, and everything you said, Dale, is very important, because when people come, they're going to go the extra mile for that unique experience, right? Because it's not something they're going to get anywhere else. It's going to be a combination. And so with someone like celebrity chef and actor Eric Marshall, with this property and the uniqueness and the isolation and how it's nestled in this environment is what people are going to look for. And when they come and they, get that whole wellness medical treatment, et cetera. But more specifically, for athletes, professional athletes, during their off season, and these professional teams we have a relationship with, when we say why they need to come for replenishment, that's the secret weapon, if you will, that they're going to get, because they're not going to get it anywhere else. And so we intend to work closely with all of you. Mark said in terms of NBA, Imala Academy soccer, and obviously being able to come and eat the natural organic produce from the farm is going to be that experience. They're going to come here, they're going to book a ticket, book a hotel room to go through an experience like they've never experienced before. And so, Mark, I want to thank you for the accommodation. You can speak a little bit. It's going to be faint, but if you want to just say a couple words, it's not going to be strong, but just real quickly, Mark, a couple of words.
Sure. I mean, can everybody hear me well enough that it's worth me spending a minute or two?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, great. So, my company is called Rubicon. We are in the hotel business. And what we do is typically we get involved with hotels that are, for whatever reason, they've been underloved, underpaid attention to, undermanaged, or need a renovation. And Carambola fell very neatly within those parameters. Obviously, the hotel has needed an upgrade for quite a long time. And as hopefully people who are visiting with us today, have seen, it's partly the way through. And we plan to continue that. The other comment I wanted to make, though, and I'll try to do it, quickly, is we want to create a hotel that provides a really local cruising experience, not the same hotel someone could go to if they went to Cancun or Curacao. And the speaker just before was talking about the food, and I wholeheartedly agree. We want our food and beverage offerings to be real cruising experiences, and it may be similar in some ways as our guests can get in New York or DC or Chicago. But we wanted to have a twist so that they're really experiencing something that is some of the Cruisian flavor. And we're going to encourage our guests not just to eat at our restaurants, but also to visit some of the local restaurants too. I believe there are many great restaurants on the island, and we plan to encourage the guests to experience some of those local favorites, not just the places that are designed for tourists. Obviously, our hotel, we're going to have facilities for people traveling, for leisure or for a business meeting. But, we're more than just a beach and a pool. Just offshore, we have snorkeling and scuba diving. And as I'm sure many of the people in the room know, St. Croix and the U.S. Virgin Islands more generally has great diving. We're right next to the hike to the tide pools. Again, another uniquely Cruisian experience. And beyond that, too, beyond the things the hotel can offer, there's some great and interesting jewelry that's made on the island. We plan to have some of that available to purchase at the hotel or encourage trips to Christiansted, Frederiksted, wherever the manufacturers of the jewelry are. There's great artwork on the island. We already have some of it at the resort, and we plan to bring more and other cultural elements of the island. So we, again, just to sum up, we want to convert this hotel, which has grown a little tired over the years. Hopefully you can see some of the renovations coming to fruition, but our plan is to create an experience for guests that's truly a Cruisian experience and not something they can get anywhere else.
Thank you so much for that, Mark. Thank you for partnering with us. We're excited on the different areas, the different verticals, and where we are going to be able to have synergy and create that unique experience. And I thank you for taking the time to at least meet the folks here at your property and be able to provide, again, to have the opportunity just to speak with us briefly as well. Thank you so much. Carol?
Glad to be a part of it. Thanks for having us.
All right, thank you so much. And I just want a time check from you, Anthony, because we have been going good and strong right now. Okay, 4:05. So we do have a few moments for questions on any level. Is there anybody that has questions that we would like to, by all means, Ariella? Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm taking notes. I have so much to say, but don't know where to start. So I'm going to start with gratitude. Thank you, Anthony Weeks, for putting this together and your diligence to bring greatness to our community that is so rightly deserving of this and so much more. It's more, I guess, and of course, thank you to everybody who came and traveled here. And I just want to encourage you to really evaluate your why you're coming here. Pick up a newspaper and really see what our community is going through. Because it sounds amazing in here, what we talked about. It sounds like a dream. And it's possible. I think everything is possible. But we cannot move a new car into a garage with the car that's been sitting there broken. So just know that there's a lot of work to be done in these areas, serious work. We are plagued with generations and decades of neglect, and there's no blame on anyone because we're all still here now and we all need to take responsibility, at least moving forward with every decision that we make. And I want to acknowledge how privileged we are today to have taken the whole day to sit here and listen to these great things when the people that we hope to help, to support, may not have even known that this was going on. So I just want to bring acknowledgement to that and to keep them in mind, because without the support of the major public, all of these ideas will be short-lived, and that is we don't have time for that anymore. we've done a lot of talking, and to really get these projects going, we really need the support of the full community that is not represented here. I'm a small business owner. By the grace of God, my business is making 12. I'm a single mother. I grew up here, and the challenges are real. And so I want to encourage everyone here to really evaluate your why and to please do it in totality with these great ideas. For example, having the wellness here is so needed. But keep in mind, our mental health facilities were taken away. And it's not only the adults and the workers that are plagued with serious mental issues and need that assistance, it's our children. I did not hear about our children and how this impacts them. Because by the time these programs start to come, we'll probably have older children looking for this. And even when I was growing up here, if I had known what I would be moving back to, I had only wished and hoped that the people above me had let me know what it is I could have been studying, what it is I should have been focusing on to help bring about real great change, because that happens over time here. And so just wanted to say that. Let me check my notes real quick. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Just to, thank you for your consideration in our community. It's so needed and it will be so welcomed. Just please keep in mind of the incredible population that is not here that needs these services. Tourism is great and it trickles down. Yeah, that's about it. With that, I could go on and on.
Thank you
but-
so much for sharing, really for sharing your thoughts. We appreciate
Thank you for that.
those expressions.
And to your point, we didn't have to broadcast live on radio. To your point, this could have been a conversation in vacuum. The entire U.S. Virgin Islands and neighboring islands, Puerto Rico, BVI, is eavesdropping on this conversation. That was by design. Okay? And it's on television. Even though we couldn't hear Mark Hayden well and Mark Gordon, people in television land, radio land, is hearing them clearly. And that was delivered. So thank you for that. Ariel is one of the voice on radio here in the community. And she has a really legitimate concern. And she cares about the community. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Carolyn?
I think,
No, by all means.
I think that without being said, this is for everybody, even the children as well. Like even for the culinary aspect of everything. I used to have a kids cooking show. I want everyone to learn how to cook. Kids, everyone, it's from like 3 years old to 5 year olds. I was teaching kids how to cook, to have like a great journey and having fun with their food. Because it's a good distraction from everyday life and even family life. Because to give them another skill, because I didn't have the skill when I was that young, but now kids are really looking to do a lot with their lives in any type of aspect. A lot of kids see me cooking, they're like, oh, I want to do that. And there are other shows that like Chop Junior, these kids are cooking better than me. So I'm like, wow, you mentor me, 5 year old? But yeah, I think what we're trying to do here is for everyone without us having to say, especially health and wellness and then the farm. I mean, I'm sure you may have tours or something, or probably will have one, so they can learn about their agriculture, learn about their land. And I'm very interested in going to the farm. I'm like a kid now with this. I was like, I want to milk a cow. I want to do something. But yeah, that's all I have to say.
I just wanted to say that, today was about tourism and, the wellness piece is part of that. But tomorrow, when we talk about innovation, I have met some of the healers that are here, and I'm looking forward to talking with you more as well, and have seen and heard about the needs that there are. So when we talk about innovation tomorrow, I hope to really talk about how we can join with with people to do some of the infrastructure development.
And if I may add, the type of outreach we do at the farm is towards the community itself. And children is one of the top of the list. Matter of fact, the first day of the Bush group is designated to that just as well, where we have something like 300 students and five schools that are involved in a junior cooking competition. And these children are awesome.
That's wonderful. And if I can say, this morning, Ms. Biggs brought here her eighth graders, these wonderful 12 future business owners, entrepreneurs, executives, whatever they choose to be. They were extremely excited to be here. They were honored to be here. We were honored to have them. So that was a real highlight for us. That was a nice surprise for us. And then we had the UVI students who came in to assist with some of the setup infrastructure. So keeping that in mind, you know, it's got to start somewhere. I'm so sorry.
And this is a very beautiful place. And when I talk to some of my homeless clients, when we talk about challenges in their mental health and challenges in life, no, they can't. Oh, okay. When I talk to my clients about challenges, where they all started, I'm so thankful for you, Dr. Barber, because they always go back to their childhood. And so childhood, this is a very important lesson for children so that they can grow up and be healthy adults. And so I also sit on the National Board for Healthcare for the Homeless as well. So this place is beautiful. The food, I've never seen any place like this. It almost kind of reminds me of New Orleans a little bit, but this place here is phenomenal. I mean, this place can grow in leaps and bounds. I really enjoyed my stay here. And like I said, I'm glad that you are spending time with kids, talk to the kids as it relates to their mental illness, because kids, it all begins with children, what they see, what they experience, trauma-related issues, even hurricanes. And I know y'all have hurricanes, we have hurricanes, and the trauma from hurricanes is just phenomenal, to say the least. And Chef, I followed you. When you, I was like, you better go, boy. And also, my fiance, he left, but he not only is he a phenomenal contractor, he makes his own ingredients as well. So his stuff, you know, like different stuff. So anyway, I had a very awesome time here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was going to add, a big part of us being here today isn't about putting money in pockets of people who already have money. That's not the goal. The goal is to provide opportunities to the children of your community, to the people of your community, provide job opportunities that without us putting our time, our effort into this and going to the government and making those steps and providing back to the community wouldn't be possible. So none of this would be possible with these people. And we talk about wellness, we talk about food, and all of this, from my perspective, is coming from us wanting to give back and wanting to heal what we know is missing. And so when we talk about Amala specifically, is when you look at residency academies worldwide, we're talking about 50 to 80 grand a year for a residency program. And let's face it, for most of America, that's one household's full wage for a year. It's impossible. So bridging that gap and providing scholarships and providing top-tier education while providing top-tier training to facilitate, whether that's a collegiate or a professional space in sport, that's our goal. And it's not about bringing anything or taking anything less. It's about giving back in that way. So I hope that you see our true desire to help your community.
Wonderful. And I will say this property here, I mean, I've been to many, many beautiful places all over the place. But there is something special about Carambola. The footprint, the views, the air, but the buildings itself here. So to have a willing venue, a willing place to start, to create this, even to facilitate this type of meeting is critical. When you have willing people that are willing, that are able to collaborate, and this is what this is, and having the health department here, which there is no health without health. So getting that right and starting that is for every single age. This is super exciting to me. This is a first annual event at this location, but I will tell you, I've only made 6 trips to the US Virgin Islands. 5 of them have been to Carambola, and I just can't get enough. I've seen a lot, but I always want to come back here. There's something that happens when you walk through and down those few steps. You get that feeling and you think a lot of things are possible. And so we've heard the amazing possibilities today, the amazing willingness today, and then we have all the right ingredients to cook something really good.
You see that smile on Mark's face? Do you see that smile on Mark's face?
Okay, this is unsolicited. I am not getting a free stay. But as a Platinum Elite member for life, that could be arranged. Amber?
Oh, well, I have some quick to say real quick. Even with the kids, like even, I'm going to talk to, of course, and hear about it. But even like here at this resort, it's a beautiful resort. Like you said, walking through the door, and then you see all this beautiful, it's so serene. I'm waking up to waves. I'm not hearing like horns honking in New York right now. This is beautiful. But even at the resort, and Mary Anthony's going to talk more too, but this would be like a win-win, because if the kids come here, I'll take care of the kids, do like a little cooking class, and the parents get to enjoy themselves.
Yes.
It's all about, figuring out a way to help everyone. Because I want the kids to learn how to cook. I want them to learn about the agriculture, wealth, and wellness. I mean, it's not health.
The way you keep saying it, that's okay. We get it. And I'm telling you, I can already see cooking camp Carambola. I already see it in my brain. Okay,
Exactly.
so just understand that.
And for one thing, mental health is a big thing for me. I was once homeless. A lot of people don't know that.
Wow.
And I'm a veteran, so I do have PTSD. So it's mental healthness is a big factor as well. And it's all about sometimes your distraction in life, or what you have going on, or what you find, what your peace of mind is. My peace of mind is my cooking. So if I can help develop that with kids, or even the adults too, because sometimes we are sitting idle and we need something to do to occupy that time and that space in our head. To me, cooking is my thing, because when the aromas come out and the tastes and the flavors, and when you bite, everyone had this experience, hopefully, but when you bite that morsel of food and your eyes roll in the back of your head,
yes,
Lord Jesus, that's what I want everyone to have. Kids, parents, resorts, restaurants, everywhere.
Mr. Brown's and Mrs. Brown's produce. I mean, really.
Exactly, because I want locally grown things. And I want to go on an adventure to see how the farm is. But it's giving back. My thing in life at this point is really giving back, because being homeless is not nice. Having mental health issues is not nice whatsoever. So if I can put forth anything, anywhere, to help guide people to a better life, or have those snapshots and moments of happiness, that would be a beautiful thing.
I love it. So good.
And Miss Carolyn, what I was going to add earlier was just, I also want to make sure that we're very clear about what's happening today. This isn't a think tank. This isn't to talk about hopes, dreams, and aspirations. This is about making strategic connections with intentional purpose so that we can make achievements for this area. And it's not for the entire territory, because if we did that, I think that would be a little too aspirational, right? We're being very intentional about coming to St. Croix, talking about the opportunities on St. Croix and what should happen next for St. Croix. So what I love is actually the breaks, because everyone gets up and they start talking. It's just buzzing and networking and connecting. And so, Anthony, we really appreciate your vision for bringing everybody here to converge on Carambola. And this is the place that things really happen.
Yes.
This is my 3rd time physically here, and absolutely love it. There's no other place like it. And so, Mark, we're coming back. We're going to do a wellness retreat. And we're doing an executive retreat. Okay, so mark my words. But I just want to make sure that we were clear about that, because after you have a conversation today with anyone and tomorrow and the next day, the call to action is what happens next. So just keep that in mind, because this is not just for conversation, this is for action.
Very good. Yes, and one last thing with you that we're gonna let you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for being here. Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here and giving your, yeah, it's me. Yeah. So, but one of the things, and thank you guys for what you guys presented. And I want to kind of piggyback on what was said here. It's not so much about the children in what she's saying. And I'm going to say something though, different than where she was going with, what's your name? I'm sorry. What's your name again? Ariella is saying. It's the cultural nuances of St. Croix. Not the Virgin Islands. We're not talking, she wasn't talking about the Virgin Islands. She's talking about this place. The cultural nuances of this place. And it speaks to who's not involved, who's not in the room, is what she's talking about, which is the people of St. Croix, which is a vast community of different ethnic groups, different social classes, all of that wrapped up. The people that can't afford certain programs. The parents and children that have never been on this property because some of them have felt in the past that this property didn't want them here. So that's something as simple as that. Something as simple as that has kept locals out of here. Before this was Carambola, this was Estate Davis Bay, this was Davis Bay Beach. Some of y'all remember a picture about 50 years ago named the Island of Dr. Moreau. The original was filmed right here on this beach. So there's even a historical connection with the shutting off of the road coming to this area when this hotel was being built. So there's a lot of different cultural nuances that speak to this community as to who we are and how we are. So a lot of what you guys have said, I've heard it before. Almost everything, I've heard it before. St. Croix is a culinary destination, wellness and stuff like that. There are resorts here that have done some of these things before. But what was missing was the opportunity to include various facets of this community into what you're doing. When you hear, for instance, and I'm going to close with this, Anthony, you can know one time. When you hear, for instance, about sport tourism here, there was a major push to do sports tourism here in terms of two categories, swimming and tennis, where there was a developer wanted to build a lot of tennis courts where the Polly Joseph Stadium is today. And people were like, there was people in this community who were saying, well, how is that gonna work? Because tennis historically has not been a sport played here. So there was a pushback against that. They were gonna build it out of pocket without government help, but there's a pushback against it because historically that's not something that was played here. That was that developer not understanding the cultural nuances of this place. So that is a part of the conversation, not so much the children. It's about that cultural bridge. How are you gonna bridge that with the people? So in those strategic meetings, that is something you have to think about who you're gonna engage with in order for these things to happen. The bush cook, I've been away for about 4 years. That's why Mr. Brown is watching me. I know he brought wife there behind me, probably why I know what happened with a gray beard. But having been born and raised here and listening to seeing what's happening, if you look at some of the successful programs, like Mr. Brown's entity, Asija Farms, who remind them, your farm has not been in operation for millennia. It's been, and look at what you did because of your engagement with the community, you and your wife's engagement with the community. So they are also, could be used as a test case for how you could move forward to engage the community into what you're doing in order to make it successful. Because we do have people with some of your backgrounds here who have birthed it from here, or who's like some of you guys have went with from and come back in with it. So they're here, they're willing to help, continue to engage them, continue to be strategic in your endeavors. And thank you, Anthony. I look forward to tomorrow, the rest of today.
And on that note, thank you so much. Oh,
Yeah, I just wanted to.
real quickly, because we're behind time.
I just want to make a comment about the things that don't gather dust, okay? So we talked about some of the achievements and all the trophies that you look at, but it's the commitment to the process of success that's important, and all the times you lost and had to get back up and got kicked in your teeth. So I remember first meeting Mr. Brown, it must have been 15 years ago when we were meeting with the agriculture and trying to teach farmers how to do their accounting. And you know, just the little things. I have a 10-acre farm in LaGrange that got mashed up with the hurricane. But what I want to put this in perspective is that I'm a returning native. I came back 20 years ago. Mr. Weeks came back 20 years ago. We are neighbors. We've been working on this for 20 years to try to get this thing. We have scars them. We have scars from everything from he talked about the stock exchange. There are so many scars in trying to make this happen year after year after year. The difference is we decided to go to New York, the DMV. Says, we know that, we're New Yorkers, we've been there, we've been to places and say, you know what? Let's go to New York because they'll understand. And what you see here, Ariella, and people that are here in the territory, you're seeing people that have been convinced outside to come here. This is no longer inside pleading to the choir and having people like crabs in a barrel bringing us down again. This is a significant effort. We're in the middle. This is a snapshot, but this isn't a beginning. This is a process that Mr. Weeks has worked on for years. We've gone all over the world, Taiwan 6 times, all over. This is a process that has lots of scars, and I just wanted to say thank you to the people who are believing in us, that are coming in here to send their message, because that's the very different thing. This isn't an internal thing, let me try this. This is now coming from the outside. So thank you, Mark, and all the other people that have come in, particularly you, Carol.
And thank you to the panelists. I want to thank you to everybody. Anthony, you get the closing words for today so we can be on time. But thank you for everyone in the audience, everyone listening on the radio, everyone on the television, everyone on the internet. These panelists, you all are amazing. And thank you for bringing your incredible ideas and your efforts here. And Anthony, you'll close us out.
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay. Yeah, so testament to what everyone has said, and I appreciate your feedback. Tomorrow, day 2, is going to be at the University of the Virgin Islands, St. Croix campus, where President Hall and the provost will be there. The Taiwanese delegations are here. There will be the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding between Taiwan's top technical university that is producing the doctorates of engineers that produce the semiconductor chips. They are the largest producers in the world. You're going to hear from the CEO of NSU, Nova Southeastern University. They built an incredible tech theme park, and they just got designated as one of the country's tech hubs. So he's going to present tomorrow, but we also signed an agreement, a country agreement between U.S. Virgin Islands and NSU for the purpose of not just technology, but to help take the medical school simulator to the next level. The former CEO of Cleveland Clinic is now the CEO of NSU Medical Program. And so they're looking forward to working together. Again, this is a call to action. This is not feel-good conversation. This is hard work that we put together. And you're going to see tomorrow that ceremony that's going to take place. So we invite you to be there tomorrow at 8 o'clock at the RT Park campus. And then we're going to then go to Government House. The governor is going to receive the delegation for the proclamation between Taiwan and the U.S. Virgin Islands. And then we're going to go to the Senate as well. So again, it's important to your physical presence and involvement in this process. And like John said, a lot of scars. Okay, there's been a labor of love. All right, kick in the head, kick in the teeth, rejected a gazillion times, but I'm still standing, right? And because I'm a child of the soil, and so therefore, I always say this is a calling, and so we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done. I want to thank every one of our partners. I want to thank our new strategic partner, collaborative partner. I'm glad what he's doing with the oil refinery, and he's open to making sure that that is not just a one-trick pony. The vision of what he's going to do with it to bring it back online. And I want to thank Mark Gordon, the owner of the hotel, and believing in what we're talking about. So thank you. The dinner is coming up, but before we have dinner, we're going to break for cocktails and then have dinner here as well. Thank you so much. See you tomorrow. We're going to meet up at RT Park for 8 a.m. We're going to do that forum on technology, telecommunication, innovation in medicine, as well as energy as well. Oh, yes, yes. So our last event is at the Diageo Visitor Center, 4 to 6. That's the closeout reception for the forum as well. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. All right. It's been a long day. Thank you so much. All right. And let's continue moving forward.
Thank you.